Hello, everybody. Some of you may have seen emails from me already, but my name is Taylor Martin. I'm the manager for the Hunting and Fishing Academy for the Tennessee Wildlife Federation. Tennessee Wildlife Federation is the nonprofit organization that is sponsoring uh, this virtual series tonight, along with the help of Amy Hall, Mary Lynn, and Ashley. We really appreciate them for coming out. So for tonight, I'm really going to turn the conversation over to them. Like the title said, this is a Women in the Outdoors podcast. So me not being a woman in the outdoors, it's really going to be up to the three of them. And I'm just going to be here to kind of help facilitate conversation and ask some questions. On that point, if you aren't that familiar with Zoom, you can ask questions to the panelists in the Q&A function. That's the best way for us to get your question as the night goes on through the webinar. If you have any question, you can put it in there, and we'll try to get it answered through the course of the virtual series. And if you have anything else you want to say, you can put it in the chat. For tonight, all the attendees, so everybody joining in, you are muted and your cameras are off, so you don't have to worry about being quiet or being seen or anything tonight. And this webinar is being recorded. So after tonight, everybody will receive a recording of the webinar. So if you can't stay for the whole thing or want to go back and rewatch it with someone, you'll be able to do that. And we hope to have that out to everybody by Friday of this week. But before we introduce all our panelists, I did want to tell you a little bit about the Tennessee Wildlife Federation. The Tennessee Wildlife Federation is Tennessee's oldest nonprofit. We were founded back, or conservation nonprofit, I should say. We were founded back in 1946 over in East Tennessee. And the mission was really to conserve Tennessee's great outdoors and natural resources, including its wildlife. And since then, we've led a lot of programs like Hunting and Fishing Academy, the Scholastic Clay Target program in Tennessee, to really encourage people to get outdoors. So we're pretty excited about this. And if you want to see what the Tennessee Wildlife Federation has going on, you can always check out our webpage at tnwf.org. And that has all of our policy work along with all the programs that we run as well. But with that being said, I would like to introduce our panelists for the night. They're going to be the ones talking most nights, and they're the ones that you all signed up to hear speak. So Amy, why don't you start us off with introducing yourself, kind of tell us who you are, how you got into the outdoors, and how you actively participate, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, everybody, hi, my name is Amy Hall. I am, I hail from Middle Tennessee, and I started hunting back around 2014. And it all started when my husband was out hunting and we had kids at home, and I noticed that he was getting all of this time in the outdoors and the quiet in nature and kind of replenishing his heart and his soul from our newborn and toddler lives. And it was kind of nice to see him refreshed coming home. And I thought, I can do that. I would love to do that. And at that point in time, I said, what do I need to do? And him knowing me, he knew that he needed to give me the tools, give me a list of things to do, and then step out of the way and just let me figure it out. And so I did that. And I got my hunter safety, hunting license, all equipment that I needed that honestly was youth hunting camo and a crossbow at the time, and got up in a tree and started hunting. I didn't harvest anything the whole first year. And I think that I was sold mainly on being out in nature. Fast forward a couple of years, and I realized I needed a community of not just him, but other hunters. I needed a community of women, especially. And so I started looking for that and realized that there are so many women out there who aren't necessarily within my reach that had similar stories to mine. And so I started doing a podcast to mainly hear how other women did it, not necessarily women who are sponsored and have all of these paid for hunts and things like that, but real honest to goodness women, whether you are single and doing it, you're a kid and doing it, or you are married or divorced, whoever you are, that you're able to get out and hunt. And I needed to hear those stories, and hopefully other people did as well. So that's kind of where I am right now, is just growing as a hunter, learning how to hunt public land, which I've been hunting for 2 years here in Middle Tennessee and some of West Tennessee. And it's just been a sweet time to be able to introduce our kids to it. Both of them have harvested deer in the past 2 years, and grow our family and myself as a hunter and give back a little bit. I think that we all, and I think these ladies would agree with me, we all become better hunters by teaching, by mentoring, or by walking along somebody else. So I've grown tenfold in the past 2 years, bringing my kids with me and walking alongside of other women and men in the outdoors. So that's kind of me. That's my story. I don't, Mary Lynn, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. Hi guys, I'm Mary Lynn. I'm from East Tennessee, live in a little town called Greenback, kind of close to Knoxville. The way I got started hunting was with my dad. So, we started hunting together when I was like 7 or 8 and just kind of come up from there. We've had a AKC registered kennel for about 15 years. So we raise beagles, do a lot of rabbit hunting, and I do a lot with the Tennessee Wildlife Federation. We have a hunting and fishing academy hunt this weekend for a rabbit hunt. I've done some stuff with National Wild Turkey Federation. I've done some ladies hunts with them, ladies hunts and women of the outdoors. And then I've got a Facebook group called Tennessee Women Outdoors, to kind of find those people in the local area that maybe need a question that men can't answer. So that's a place for them to open up and, find the right clothes that fit, or, maybe the gun that fits them right, stuff like that. What I like to do, my favorite hunting and fishing is number one would be my rabbit dogs, and rabbit hunting. That's an absolute blast. There's nothing better than getting out in the woods and leisurely just walking around with your buddies and playing with 8 or 9 little beagles on the ground, so that's a lot of fun. Everybody likes dogs and animals and stuff like that. And then my second would be turkey hunting. I absolutely love turkey hunting. Called my first turkey in when I was about 10 years old. So I was, Dad jokes around, I was basically born with a call in my hand. So I love turkey hunting. I got to get an Osceola. I'm just an Osceola short of finishing my Grand Slam. So that's going to be my next thing. And it's great. It's a way of life for me. So, but what I enjoy is I see a lot of women getting into it for different reasons. Some of them are single and their sons want to hunt, so they need to learn how to hunt or fish to be able to teach them. Some want to know where their food comes from to make sure it's clean and doesn't have all this process to it. A lot of different reasons, and I just like to be that person that they can openly come to and ask those questions without the feeling of being judged. And I love introducing people into the old-fashioned style of hunting with rabbit dogs. There's a lot of people that never hunted with dogs, but nowadays they get started in deer or they get started in turkey. And if you take a child or you take somebody out deer season in the middle of December and they freeze and they don't see anything, probably not going to come back and hunt. They're out there with me and they're playing with a bunch of dogs on the ground and it's a little bit more active and there's some more shooting and they don't have to be so quiet. They can get the full experience of the outdoors and develop that love of how I did when I was little, starting squirrel hunting or rabbit hunting and then get into the big game stuff. So I just want to introduce people back into the small game side. It seems like we're kind of getting away from that some, and it's fun, whether you're dog hunting with beagles for rabbits or you're using fife for squirrels or whatever, but it's a lot of fun. So that's my favorite thing. So and I'll go ahead and pass that on to the next person, let them get introduced and get going, because I can talk forever. So I'm going to go ahead and let them go on.
Man, that was great, Mary Lynn. I've got a lot of questions for you. I've always, one of my goals is to hunt rabbits with dogs, and I'm just dipping my toes into the turkey water. So I'm also not far from you. I'm located in East Tennessee, in Knoxville.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so just a stone's throw from Greenback. But a little bit about myself for everybody who's joining us tonight. Obviously, you can see that. And I am currently in East Tennessee, but I am originally from the Midwest. I was born in Minnesota, and I got my bachelor's degree in wildlife ecology from Wisconsin. So I know we've got a couple folks joining from up north. And following that, I traveled around the country working on different wildlife research projects, primarily working with deer. I spent some time in West Africa in the Peace Corps, helping with some conservation issues in a small country called Ghana. And following that, came back to the U.S., went to Mississippi, where I lived for about 3.5 years, got my master's degree there, studying how hunting pressure influences buck movements for white-tailed deer. So that was a really fun project. We got to capture and collar about 100 bucks, a lot of bucks that are bigger than anything I'd seen in my life up to that point. And through all that time, I was able to continue hunting, sometimes more than others. I had started hunting growing up with my dad when I was about 13. Started out, like Mary Lynn said, with big game, whitetails, and then did some elk hunting out west, and really loved it. Really loved feeling like I was part of the club, and I had great experiences there. I branched out into some waterfowl hunting and some upland birds. Duck hunting is really the thing that I am most passionate about. I also enjoy deer hunting, but because I did it for work for so long, I think it may take a little time for me to get super enthused about spending a lot of time in the stand again. But yeah, I guess finishing my master's degree, my husband is also a wildlife biologist. Actually, he just finished the Game Warden Academy. I think I saw somebody comment that they're hoping to do that. So it's an intense process, but he can do it. He just finished that and got a position here in East Tennessee, so that brought us here. And I got started as in my current role, which is as the Southeast Regional Coordinator for the Artemis program. And the Artemis program began a couple years ago in the West, and now the position that I have was created to expand it to the Southeast. Looks like some folks are having trouble hearing me. Amy and Mary, can you hear? Is it okay?
Kind of goes in and out.
Yeah.
It's just a little hazy.
I'm going to try to switch to my phone here if I can. Y'all just bear with me real quick. See if we can do it this way.
Ashley and I have kind of a similar, my husband's a wildlife biologist, and so we've kind of talked about that a little bit, that science side of it.
Yeah, so I apologize. I'm going to, once we turn it over to another speaker, I'll try to switch out my speaker situation. But essentially, yeah, so I came from a science background. Now I'm in kind of more the outreach side of things. And the Artemis program really is aimed at creating community among sportswomen, which is why I'm so excited to be involved in a call like this. Because, a lot of the barriers for women to enter into hunting and angling or to progress in them is that they don't have the skills or confidence, or they don't have somebody to go with. And growing up and since then, the majority of my experiences hunting have been with men, and they've been great. But there is value in having fellow women to experience these things and to talk about them with. And so I'm happy to be here facilitating that and participating in it as well.
Yeah, hey, thanks for all three of you introducing yourselves. And just a note for everyone, please feel free to ask questions at any point through this webinar. This is really we're putting this on for all of you. So anything you want to ask our panelists, please feel more than welcome to do so. But we appreciate y'all introducing yourselves, and we'll kind of get into kind of our first topic of conversation tonight. It sounds like all three of you have already done tremendous work in trying to introduce more women to the outdoors. So you've seen a lot of women try it, and maybe they didn't come back to the outdoors. What are some of the reasons that you think that women may have not have chosen to come back or like take up hunting in the long term?
Ashley, you probably have a big, this is your passion, right? This is, I mean, the one thing that I can say, which I know that you're going to repeat, is the community. It's the ability to find people that you can either hunt with or that you can at least have a conversation with and learn alongside of. But I would say the other part, another huge part is, okay, where do we go from here? Where do I hunt? How do I find the places to hunt? And I think that's a huge piece of, well, I can't find a place, so I guess I can't hunt.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know that I'm going to be able to alter my audio, so hopefully it's good enough. I would second what you said, Amy, and I'd love to hear what Mary Lynn has to say about this. One of the things that I've noticed in my own life, it's kind of been an ebb and a flow to my involvement in hunting. Sometimes I have a lot more time and resources to devote to it than others. And my husband and I are actually expecting our first child in May. So that's got the wheels turning for sure. Thinking about how I'm going to navigate starting a family and not just getting left behind at the house during hunting season. And that's one of the things that the men that I hunt with can't really comment on, because they just go and somebody else deals with the kids. So that's something I know that can be a barrier for a lot of women, is different life events, responsibilities that they have that just kind of take precedence. But I'm really excited to hear how other women have navigated that successfully, because I think that hunting as a family is just one of the best things, and Amy can probably speak on that, and maybe Mary Lynn too.
Mary Lynn, what are the things that you've noticed?
I think it's with a lot that what you guys have said is absolutely 100% true, and I think another part of it is just finding their niche. With the hunting industry, you can be a duck hunter, you can be an upland hunter, you can hunt deer, you can hunt turkey, you can hunt squirrel, rabbit, like I do. And one thing that I see is maybe they don't venture into enough different species or style of hunting to find what they really enjoy.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the time their husband or their boyfriend might deer hunt and they want to spend more time with him, so they go deer hunting. Maybe they don't see nothing, maybe they get bored, maybe they freeze to death, maybe it's not their thing. And they don't know who to go to maybe learn something different. So then they just kind of give it up because they don't. And another thing is confidence. A lot of women don't have confidence to go hunting by themselves, or to really kind of dive into what information is needed. They don't, and they don't feel right going and asking some people. They might not have the confidence or be comfortable to learn what they might need. So they just kind of back off of it and maybe go find a different hobby instead of finding the right niche that would have fit them perfectly. They might not like deer hunting, but in the springtime at 6:30 in the morning, hearing that turkey gobble on the ridge might have been something that got their blood pumping, or getting a little beagle puppy about that big and raising it up and watching it run its first rabbit, and if they don't find their niche or their favorite, they're not going to stick with it.
Yeah. I think that there's the argument, we have so many women getting into hunting right now, right? It's exponentially great of the number of women starting to get into hunting, but the number of women exiting our community is at just as fast of a rate. And that shows kind of what what Ashley, you've talked about is it's that retention. What is that thing that is, it's not keeping us in there? And being a late comer to hunting, I mean, I'm 40 now, and so I was in my early 30s when I started hunting. If I had not had support here on the home front, it would have been really hard. You know, we drew straws on who got to go. I've always been a solo hunter until this year, and it was one of those things where we had to pick, okay, who stays with the kids and who goes, because they were too young at the time to really get out there for the equipment and the things that we had to go at that point in time. And now it's kind of a divide and conquer. You go this way, I go this way, and we've got a kid with us. And so there's a way of balancing along as you're learning to go. But I agree with you, Mary Lynn, with the with trying different things. There's like one of the easiest ways that you can get women in the outdoors is fishing. That's hiking, fishing, like all of those things. But then you could do squirrel, you can do rabbit, you can do turkey, deer. Like there are all of these things that you can try. Upland birds, ducks. I love duck hunting. I love deer hunting. I have yet to get a turkey. So I know that I will absolutely love it when it comes to fruition, but it's that I think there are multiple reasons of why people or women don't stay in. And it's because we have a tendency of thinking of others before ourselves sometimes. Oh, and an upland bird, pheasant, quail.
Woodcock.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, Tennessee, we don't really have an abundance of upland, unfortunately. But upland hunting is any type of, a rabbit's considered upland hunting. Just kind of a style more than anything, but there's several different games to go after.
Yeah, and our schedules, we tend to overschedule ourselves, don't we, Emily? I think that sometimes we have to step back and say, hey, what do we need to do for ourselves, and not be afraid to take that step and not feel selfish in doing that, and saying, hey, this is something I want to try. This is something I want to do, and you make that time for it.
I think that's so true, Amy. And I think, too, hunting is one of those things that you can certainly justify as not being selfish, especially if you do have a family, you do have external responsibilities. Part of your responsibility to them could be paving a path for them to experience the outdoors and to become involved in conservation and to have a land ethic and value these things that a lot of people these days don't get exposure to. So you developing yourself and making time for yourself to get out and learn is really a service to those around you.
Yeah. Yep. Ellen, I saw your question about squirrel hunting. And you're from West Tennessee, right? I think that you said that you were representing West Tennessee. You know, there are a lot of ways that you can connect through hunters, whether it's Facebook or you can look for online groups that you can look for. But I think that even in your community, there are ways that you can reach out. Whether, I don't even know if people read the newspaper anymore, but there's always things, like there's always a way that you can reach out and look for something. But honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not afraid to say I don't know. So in West Tennessee, how can somebody get involved in learning how to squirrel hunt?
I think nonprofits are a great way to start. I've met a lot of great women through National Wild Turkey Federation, and we've been on hunts together. Facebook is a great way. I've had a lot of women reach out to me on Facebook. I've set up hunt forums that way. There's different Facebook groups you can get into and to do that. But just getting involved in a nonprofit, whether it be National Wild Turkey Federation, whether it be Ducks Unlimited, whether it be Tennessee Wildlife Federation, we're always looking for hunt masters that are women, because there might be a little girl that wants to go and they might be more comfortable with a woman. So that's another way for you to learn. And I think the hunting and Taylor can touch on some of that stuff later on, but the Hunting and Fishing Academy that Tennessee Wildlife Federation does is going to expand that and grow.
Yes.
And maybe, in the next few months or the next few years or so, we can open up just all women classes as well. There's a lot of stuff in the works through them, but their Hunting and Fishing Academy is great to introduce new hunters.
I would also say that exactly what you've asked about is the idea behind the Artemis program.
Yep.
So we're brand new in the Southeast, but we're hoping to develop what we call ambassadors in each state. And these are women who are going to be able to organize some skills events. So things like, how to shoot a shotgun, intro to deer hunting, things like that. But also informal hunt camps. So, if you want to learn how to turkey hunt, hopefully there will be a woman within the Artemis program in your state that has that on her hunting resume, something that she does. So that's something that we're developing currently, and it's exciting to see all the interest that's in this webinar, because I think that's a great indicator of what we're going to be able to do to connect women going forward.
And if that ambassador if that's not her thing to do, she probably will be able to hook you up with somebody who can.
Absolutely.
Somebody.
Yeah.
They'll know somebody somewhere for sure.
Yeah.
Like I don't duck hunt. I have no. We went this weekend. It was a disaster, but we had fun. But I don't duck hunt, so I have no idea where to start. But a friend of mine, Amy Adrada, wanted to learn how to duck hunt. I've taught her how to deer hunt. I taught her how to rabbit hunt. I had no idea where to start with duck hunting. So we, went to a local range here and did some skeet shooting and met somebody else that took us out duck hunting, and then she went to Reelfoot. So it's just, you the more you reach out in this community, you learn more people, you know more people, and you'll find, I could probably find somebody for every game you want to hunt. I might not know it, but I'll find somebody that can get you there.
Yeah. Yep. Susan asked, is there a resource that lists female hunting and fishing guides in Tennessee? That is hard to find.
We need to make one.
We need to make one, but it's really hard to find.
It is.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of women guides. There's a lot of guides that are open to taking women that are very understanding and don't, make you feel welcome. So those people are out there too.
Yeah.
Oh,
we got a clothing question, which
I love it.
I was just about to say. Joyce asked, I was waiting when the clothing question would come up, and it kind of leads into our next topic about talking about gear. One of the biggest, I think, daunting things for new hunters in general is the idea of having to get a lot of gear, and especially for women who might not feel like there's a lot of gear out there. So y'all want to talk about that?
That's one of as a podcaster, that's one of the, I guess, more negative responses that I've gotten. Not from women. It's more of are we complaining about clothing again? Well, let's just go over real quick before I answer your question, or before we do. Clothing and gear. It is so important to find things that fit you and work for you. And it doesn't matter if you are a man or a woman, you need to find what fits you and what works for you. Because if you aren't comfortable, if you're cold, if you're wet, if your feet hurt, you're not going to continue hunting. It's just hard. And it's not that we're looking for comfort, we're looking for workability. Whether it's in a pack, if you're going out west and you're going to hurt your hips, you're going to misalign your back. There are all of these things that you have to be able to find that fit you. I was going to say, Joyce, if you are on Instagram, look up Hannah, the plus size hunter. And I've done a podcast with her. She's based out of Texas, but she does a whole lot of non-biased, unsponsored trying on of clothes. And she will tell you, and she's not like I would say she's not a 5'10", size 0 hunter. She is a regular average person who just goes and tries things on and tells you how they fit, how they would fit, and why she would buy it again or why she wouldn't. So she is a great resource, I believe. I trust her completely, and I think that she's just an excellent resource. It's hard to find, you ladies, you can probably agree with me, it's hard to find clothing that is insulated, that's made for women, that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It's really hard to find. It's really hard to find. You either have to wear men's clothing or, say that again.
Even if it fits you right. Like the thing that bothers me most about women's clothing, they're not thinking about how we need to move or maneuver. They're thinking of how they think that we're just worried about how we look.
Right.
Yes. It's not good at all. It's just
right.
that they want, and we have a joke, so Amy, as an example, when I took her rabbit hunting, I just had her, because we're in Briars, and I just had her go to the store and buy a $25, $30 pair of Dickies. That's, just the regular Carhartt pants, something like that, because I've spent the money on the Brownings and the Proas, and I blow them out in a year. They're just not durable. And it's not flattering. And, we always joke around, it's functionality, not sexuality. We're hunting,
Right.
You need something that works, not necessarily looks good. And that's the hardest part about finding clothing for women is they think that we just constantly think we need to look good and not function the way that we really need it to.
100%. Yep.
We don't get the nice gussets for whenever we, try to squat down or the reinforced knees or anything like that. They just think we all have to be pretty. And I promise you, I'm not pretty when I'm hunting.
No. I agree 100%. And it's important to find something, but it's hard to find it. Most of the companies out there, if you buy something, there's always a return, right? Don't settle just because you spent that money and you try it on, it doesn't feel right. Send it back. Find something that works for you. Don't be afraid to say, no.
Yeah, I think I would agree completely with everything that y'all have said. I think one of the things that I've learned going forward is that it can be expensive, and I hunted in hand-me-downs for most of my childhood and young adulthood, and even still, some of my gear is hand-me-downs from my dad or even my husband. But when you find something, when you spend some time in the field, you'll understand what's critical to you. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a pair of hunting pants. For me, it was a shotgun that really is worth investing in the right fit. So, if there is a price tag on that one item, I'm not saying go out and buy new Sitka gear head to toe because that's a budget eater. But prioritizing those items that you find that really make a difference for you,
mm-hmm.
starting there, sometimes be a good way to go about it. And things are getting better. I will say, when I was 15 years ago, when I was just getting started, there was nothing. If I wanted something that was made for women, it was pink. More power to you if you like pink, but I definitely don't want to be wearing that in the field. And one of the things that Mary Lynn said that I thought was so funny is, talking about appearances over function, and no man ever tried to look sexy in a deer stand. So, the expectation that that's our goal when we're in the field, that's something that I think is changing to some degree, and hopefully we can shape that going forward.
I agree. And what you said about the shotgun, like finding a gun that fits you is crucial. Whether you're looking for a handgun or a rifle or a shotgun, whatever you're looking for. I just bought a new shotgun because the shotgun I used last year was too big for me, and the way that it was put together, it ended up breaking my cheekbone. And so you're trying to find things that aren't going to hinder you. You're trying to find things that are going to help you. So again, don't settle. Keep keep pushing, keep finding. You don't have to get the most expensive thing. You just need to find the thing that fits you. And what works for me might not work for Ashley, and what works for Ashley might not work for any. I mean, you've got to find what works for you individually.
And it's not always easy to know right away. I mean, if you go and test out 2 shotguns or, you know, 2 versions of something, you don't really know how it should fit you anyway, it's going to be hard to figure that out. And the only way to do it is to talk to people and get your hands on as much stuff as you can, and just test it out.
Yep.
Yeah, get your hands on more stuff, and don't let, my biggest piece of advice, don't let your boyfriend, your dad, or your husband influence what firearm you buy.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Get what fits you. Get what you're comfortable with. Don't be afraid of a 12 gauge just because they think that you can't handle it. There are 12 gauges now that don't kick like they used to.
Yep.
Just if you got to find what's comfortable for you, and have your input. You know, if you do have your husband, your boyfriend, whoever mentoring you, that's absolutely great. It's fantastic that they're there to support you, but don't have your input as well. Make sure you are comfortable, because number one, you know, you're carrying a firearm. It's a dangerous weapon. You want to be comfortable with it. You want to make the proper shot to take that deer down or take that turkey down and not wound that animal.
Right.
And that's you know, a lot of our prep is to make sure that we do take a good harvest and not wound an animal and not be able to find it or anything like that. That absolutely kills me. So making sure that everything fits right, you know, making sure you know how to properly handle that firearm. That's very important, whether it be the bows, the firearms, all that stuff.
Right.
And getting a help from somebody at a bow store, somebody at a gun store. I've noticed that here in the past 5-10 years, these guys are more open to help and make sure it fits you right. And they're not condescending in any way anymore. And it's great, because they'll have a conversation with you and get you what you need, and get you what fits you, but definitely get what fits. That's the most, if you're shooting something, bow, anything, get what fits you for sure. You'll be more accurate and you'll be more comfortable.
And confident.
Yep. Because you're not going to be scared of the kick, or you're not going to be scared of the, releasing that bow and the bow slap just because your draw length's a little bit too long. You know, you'll be a lot more confident in what you're doing.
We're getting close to our 7:30 end time for this. It's funny how time flies with good conversation. But before we open it up to questions, do y'all have any advice? If you had to give kind of one line of advice for any women out there wanting to get involved in any type of hunting, or maybe get involved in a new type of hunting they haven't previously done, what would you recommend?
My one line would be, don't quit. You have the idea, you want to go do it, so go do it.
I think mine would be, don't worry about asking a dumb question, because there are no such thing as dumb questions. Reach out, ask questions. The more you know, the more confident you're going to be. And the more confident you are, the more you're going to want to go.
Mine would probably be try everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like try it all. You never know exactly what you're going to have fun with, you know, and try squirrel huntings. If you think that you might enjoy it, try it. And if you need help to find somebody to do it, reach out to any of the panelists, reach out to Taylor Martin, reach out to somebody in the industry, and we'll help you get started. But try it all. I mean, I've had my most fun just trying new things that I've probably, you know, and I probably sucked at it. We didn't get a duck, but man, we had a blast just sitting out there, you know, and I've gotten to travel to Nebraska and Kansas and Texas and all these other places. And I've got, you know, Kelly Ott, who's on here watching, I've got an open invite from her to go run rabbits with her, because she ran rabbits with me before. So it's just fun to get out and meet all these people and learn all these things. But that would be mine, is to try it all. I mean, if you think you're going to like it, try it.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Not to belabor the question, but keep in mind that all the people that you see hunting and that you think are experts, at one point in their life didn't know anything about what they're doing. And it may have been a long time ago for them, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I get to speak.
We always say sucking at something is the first step at becoming good at something. But we do have a question from Jennifer. Amy, I believe you mentioned earlier on that you hunt public lands. What public lands do you hunt? Do you travel across the state, or do you kind of focus in the Middle Tennessee area?
I focus mainly on the properties that are around me, that are close to me. And that, I mean, really the public lands around me, you can either bow hunt or you can muzzleloader or shotgun. There's no rifle hunting on them. So you have to make sure you know all the rules and regulations for them for each one, because they're all different. We looked up on Onyx, we looked up on TWRA, like whatever state you are in, they have the information of what public lands are around you. My personal suggestion for it is go and scout those places in the off season. Don't wait until the season opens. Don't wait till it's dark. Make sure that you get out there before season starts and get in there and walk those areas, become familiar with them, mark paths walking in so that you don't have to even think about that in the dark. Where we are, we can open carry, and I think that gives me a little bit more confidence walking in by myself, because that can be a little daunting, walking in on public land alone. And so knowing where I'm going, knowing what things are around me, knowing where my boundaries are and where I can set up ahead of time gives me that confidence to go out there and look. So it's a lot of research, it's a lot of planning, and it's a lot of boots on the ground figuring it out.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I don't stick to one, because, you know, we have the dogs. I should put a sticker on my truck that says "Have dogs will travel." But I do a lot in East Tennessee. I've been to Bridgestone, Firestone, WMA, which is more out her way. I've been to Mingo Swamp, which is south of here. But the way I would prepare for that is to use Onyx hunts. Like she was talking about there, and there's other great ones out there. There's what's the other, HuntWise, and I don't know, there's 3 or 4 different ones, but they give you a GPS. And luckily with technology, our cell phones will help with a lot of that stuff, just to be able to help you find the right areas to go. But having your GPS and having it, you know, an idea where you want to go, and like she was saying, mark trails and all that fun stuff, that's very important. So that way you don't feel like you're going to get lost, you know. And then find somebody to kind of mentor you on how to read land, you know, read the lay of the land, you know, how you listen for roads and how you think stuff's going to go and stuff like that. That'll help you learn from keeping, you know, getting lost and things like that too, if you can learn how to kind of read the way the land lays. So
I think that the biggest misconception is I need a stand, I need a climber, I need this, that, and the other. I shot a deer on public land this year with a muzzleloader, and I was sitting on the ground.
okay.
Me
That's
too.
the most high technology camo, you know, like
Yeah.
it moves more with deer than anything. You know how many deer have been killed in old red plaid shirts back in the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's you don't need all the fancy stuff. You need a quality firearm or piece of equipment that you're comfortable with to harvest that animal, and you just need to go out there and learn it all. And you're going to screw up and you're going to make mistakes, but that's part of it. And that's, you know, you're always going to have a funny story to tell.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that people have been hunting long before mossy oak was ever invented. So
Yes.
that stuff can be helpful, it can be fun, but you don't need a lot to get started. And as far as public land here in East Tennessee, there's TVA land, which is kind of unique and nice. It's Tennessee Valley Authority. There's WMAs that I've hunted on. There's Forest Service land. And I know when I lived in Mississippi, we would hunt on Army Corps of Engineers properties quite a bit. So Onyx is great for even just for getting an idea of what is where. And kind of like what Amy said, when you're getting out to scout, sometimes the end, just after a season ends, is the best time to get out there. Like now is prime time to go scouting for deer, because you can still find where fresh scrapes and rubs are. And you can, you know, see where there's been a lot of activity. Looking forward to next year.
Yeah, and you can find, especially right after deer season, you can start looking for where turkeys roost, where they're scratching, where, where's the poop, where's, deer are starting to shed their antlers. So these are the times that you can get out and start prepping for your seasons. And it is squirrel season right now.
We do a lot of that with rabbit hunting. We run the dogs year round. My dogs are ran, year round to make sure they're like an athlete. So to make sure that they are on their game, they're ran year round. So in the spring and summer, I'm looking for deer sign. I'm looking for turkey sign. We'll find a shed every once in a while just so and that's mainly on public ground. So if I wanted to hunt those areas, I'd know where to start.
And those women with families, this is the time where hunters aren't in orange and they're not carrying, a rifle to shoot a deer down. These are the times that you can go out with your family and go hike that property and check things out as a family affair. So you're teaching your kids how to look for sign, how to look for trails, and for all of these things that you yourself are learning. So learn alongside of them as you're prepping for those seasons.
I think another thing too, when you become a hunter, when you become immersed in, maybe the first thing you hunt is deer, or maybe it's small game. Every time you're out there, you start to think about the next thing, and you really experience the world differently. It's not like when you go on a hike and you put your head down and say, wow, look at that pretty view.
Yeah.
It's actually, you become a participant instead of just an observer, and that can be so rewarding.
Yep.
Chip made a good point. Say that again, Mary Lynn.
Sorry, Taylor. Well, like what Ashley was saying, is when you're hiking, your head's down, you just want to get to that top and look at the pretty view. But when you're learning to hunt, it opens you up to what the woods really are, what those mushrooms are, what that scrape is, what that, droppings are, what animal that goes to, and it just teaches you a lot more, and just kind of opens up the whole world around you, not just that trail that you're staying on for those few miles.
And put your kids to work. Get a scavenger hunt together to look for scat, to look for droppings, to look for rubs and scrapes. And this is what it looks like. Put a picture on it. They can help you. They can be part of it and feel like they're doing something with you. And
now I can say honestly, every time that I drive past a body of water, I'm looking for ducks. And if I see them, I'm looking for what kind of duck is that? What's it doing over there? Is there duck food?
And y'all mentioned some really good resources with like Onyx and Huntwise. There's a lot of applications out there. And part of it too is the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency offers interactive maps. So you can pull those up and see what hunting areas are close to you and what kind of hunting opportunities that WMA specifically offers. And TVA does the same thing of lands that are available to hunt for them. And I mentioned earlier in the chat, we'll be sending out some resources in the coming days with the recording of this virtual series. So we'll be sure to include those, the links to those websites, so everybody can look for those. And along with that, Chip Hall made a good point in the chat. Learning the laws of your WMAs and your state is super important. So those TWRA resources link you to WMA specific regulations along with the hunting guide, where you'll receive your general and statewide regulations.
Yeah, each area is different. I mean, I've noticed, hunting in East Tennessee, the deer regs are different than Middle and West. Being able to understand if you're crossing state lines with CWD in the West, how do you handle transport? We just brought a deer back from Kansas, and we had to make sure that it was completely no bone, no anything that could bring anything into our state that's not supposed to be here, but that also goes across county lines. And so you have to really make sure where you're hunting, even if it's just one county away, that it hasn't changed. And that's on us as hunters. That's our responsibility to make sure that we know that we're in the right with what we're doing.
And TWRA has that Hunt Go app, which is absolutely great. You can check your regulations before you ever even get out of the truck.
It's amazing. Yep.
We also had another question, see if I can find it, from Susan. She mentioned that Orvis has a 50-50 program aimed at getting more women into outdoor sports like fly fishing. Do y'all know of any other companies that offer similar programs?
I don't off the top of my head. I imagine they exist, but I don't know.
I know the National Turkey Federation in Tennessee has done some. It's like man, I can't. It's a great program, and I've got to work earlier today, so my mind's a little bit fried. But it's like it's a weekend. You go out and they actually teach you hunting and fishing. I think Brenda Valentine's put it on a few times, and she was one of my mentors. I love learning anything I can from Brenda Valentine, but that's a great kind of thing to get into. But I wish I could remember the name. I'll maybe get with Taylor on it and figure out exactly what it was, and he could put it in the email after this. But it's like a weekend where they can go and kind of teach you from the ground up type thing.
I know in the past, TWA and the foundation has offered a Becoming an Outdoors Woman workshops, which I believe that's a week-long program. And I know quite a few people who've attended that, and a lot of people have been instructors, and they rave about the program.
There's good connections there are good connections with that you can make that can carry on further. Not just that one-time event. I think that there's some good connections there where you can reach out and ask. I mean, we've said it here. You can reach out to us, and if we don't know the answer, we can probably find somebody who can help you out.
And I think the biggest thing, if you're just getting started or if you're not sure where to go, be vocal. Be vocal about the fact that you want to be or you are a hunter. If you've gone out in the woods and you've held a license and had your hunter safety and had a firearm with you, guess what? You're a hunter now. So talk about that, own it, and that's going to spark conversation, sometimes with complete strangers, probably more so pre-COVID, but we'll get back there. And that, folks, you'd be shocked what people will offer and extend to you because they will want to know you.
Yep.
Then Jenny asked if there were stands already out on public land. For the most part, no, you may find some stands out there, but they've been put out by other hunters. So
yeah, don't get in those. That's not safe. Don't climb into a stand that you didn't set up or a member of your family.
Yeah, I would second that. You don't know who has put that up, how they put it up, and the safety of it for sure. Use your safety harnesses and all of that. But a lot of places have rules where you can't leave things more than 24 hours. So I would not use something that somebody else left out there, just for safety reasons for sure. But I don't want somebody coming up on me going, wait, you're in my stand, you're in my stuff.
Yeah, that's probably not a good situation. Yeah, but if you're wanting a stand to take with you on public ground, there's climbing stands that are very safe, and I guess the biggest thing now is saddle hunting, which I haven't done yet. I'm kind of curious about it, so I might dabble in that a little bit next year. But that's usually a nice. The saddle is going to be a lot lighter than that 45-pound stand or 40-pound stand that we've got on our back trying to carry it in. So that's kind of why I want to get into it. I hunt a lot of mountains that are up and down, so the more weight I can cut in my pack, the better.
Yep. Susan, great question. Excellent question. Hannah, the plus size hunter, has a whole Instagram story on that exact thing, on female urinary devices. I go listen to it. She's great. She did an awesome review on it, and I have used one once. It was not my cup of tea, but she has some great advice on how you should use one if you do use it.
I would also
practice.
Lots of practice in the shower before you go.
I think that, Susan, this speaks to something, and I know we're running short on time here, but this is something that, again, you won't bring up in conversation with your male counterparts because they really can't contribute to it. I think that there's a lot of ways that women in the outdoors have found to navigate things like that. And, you know, even just talking about, you know, to go and pee, but there's 3 P's, right? You got to pee, you have a period, and you poop. And
Yeah.
it's important to know how to do all of that effectively in the field so that you're not hindered, you're not limited. And 2 minutes isn't enough time for me to go into depth on all of that, but certainly that's something that we can talk about.
Yeah. I don't think either of us are hesitant about that conversation. So reach out to us. I've had multiple conversations with women out west. What do I do when I'm on my period and there are bears around? Like that, those are important conversations. How do you handle that? Because it becomes a safety issue. So those are all really good conversations we just don't have enough time for, but I'm happy to have those conversations.
And we'll be sure to make sure we include Amy's, Ashley's, and Mary Lynn's contact information in
Yeah.
these follow-up emails. So if any of y'all have questions you'd like to directly ask them, you can. We'll do one more question, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. We had one from Tara Green. She says she's a city girl, and she just moved to a rural area, and she's looking to get started for something to do with her dogs. Where do you think she should recommend? Mary Lynn, I think this is firmly in your court.
Oh man. That's such a loaded question. There's so many different things you can do with a dog. You know, like I raise beagles, so they're scent hounds, so it's mainly like rabbits, you know, feisty squirrels. A great thing that you can do with just your, you know, at home pet is shed hunting or blood trailing. Those are great things to do that you just moved into a rural area. You know, you can just get out in the yard and do with the dogs, you know, but there's bird dogs. That's a whole broad subject. But if it's just something to kind of go with your dog and do, I don't know what type of breed the dog is, so I wouldn't know exactly which way to kind of push you on what their instincts would be. But most dogs are, you know, they're scent, you know, they use their nose a lot. So blood trailing or shed hunting is a great way to start for just your, you know, stay at home pet, something to do for fun.
And you can reach out to your neighbors. You can say, hey, I've got a dog. If you get a deer and you know where it is, if it's within 100 yards, call me. And just be willing to drop what you're doing and get out there. I had a deer one time that the neighbor brought out his Maltese, and that my husband had it happen too. The Maltese went out there and followed the blood trail. So they're bred to do that. You just have to give them opportunity to learn.
And I think I saw where she just said it was like a golden retriever and a Westie. Golden retrievers are used in so many different broad spectrums of hunting. You know, you could duck hunt with them. You can actually upland hunt with them and use them as a retriever. You can do the blood trailing we were talking about, shed hunting. There's a lot of different things you can do with the Goldie. The Westie, you can actually do, there's a rat trials where they, you know, a Westland Terrier has a hunting in like a rats, moles, anything that they would burrow for. And there's actually events out there that you can do with the Westies and the small dogs with that want to burrow and things like that. And I saw where somebody just asked what shed hunting is. So shed hunting is going to be in the next few months when the deer start shedding their antlers. You can actually train a dog to smell out those antlers and kind of collect those. You can do different things with them. Some people grind them into meal for stuff. A lot of people use them for decorations. A lot of people make rattle horns out of them. There's 1,000 different things you can do with a set of antlers.
They're good dog treats.
Yep.
A great dog treat, yep. They're safe. They don't split. They're not going to get caught in anybody's throat.
It also shows you where your deer are. So it's a great tool for that has a lot of different uses for it.
And Jenny just asked, what is shed hunting? So for clarification, it's hunting for shed antlers by deer. When deer shed their antlers in late winter, early spring, people go out and hunt and find the antlers. There's a lot of people that do it and they never hunt deer. They find the joy in that. And some people are very good at it. but we have kind of reached our time limit. So I want to thank everyone for attending. I also like to thank our 3 panelists. They've been great with answering questions and having a great conversation. Before we get off, do y'all want to tell people where they can find you if they want to send you a follow on social media?
You can find me on Instagram, Amy_Hall_Hunter, or Her Wild Outdoors is my podcast, and it's on any of the podcast apps you've got. But yeah, Instagram is the easiest way to contact me. I respond fairly quickly there.
Mary Lynn?
I'm a Facebooker. You can find me, on Facebook. I've got Tennessee Women Outdoors group, and I've got Light 'em Up Kennels. We're starting our Facebook page in the next few days. We got to get all the dogs, all their nice, pretty pictures and everything to put on there. So that'll be up in the next week or so. But you can find me on Facebook, and just send me a message. Get into Tennessee Women Outdoors to reach out to other ladies in the area that hunt and fish as well. That's a great little page, and they're very supportive on there. So, but just find me on Facebook or call me at work. So.
Well, if you want to get in touch with me, I do have a Facebook and an Instagram. Both of them are very closely linked to the Artemis Sportswomen Instagram and Facebook pages. We also have a podcast that I encourage folks to go listen to. We do a lot of Q&A with sportswomen on there. And Taylor's going to send out my email. That's a surefire way to get in touch with me. And I noticed somebody said in the chat earlier they wish there was like a national repository of mentors. And on the Artemis website, we actually have a map showing ambassador locations around the country. And so check that out if you're interested.
And Ashley, you actually have an event coming up this week with the Artemis. You want to mention that real quick before we sign off?
Yeah, so on Thursday evening at 6:30 Eastern time, we're going to have a storytelling event. So Amy is going to be one of our featured storytellers. We're really excited. We're going to have sportswomen on there talking about some of their most meaningful experiences in the field. And it's going to be interactive. So there's going to be time afterwards for you to ask questions of the storytellers or share your own experiences. So we'd love to see you there. And the registration link will go out. I think Taylor's going to send that out in an email.
Yeah. It'll be sent out in our follow-up emails. So make sure you check that if you're interested. And I also just posted it in the chat. So if anybody wants to click on that, you can go ahead and do so. But once again, we thank everybody for attending. Everybody's been posting their thank yous in the chat. So we appreciate your time. And we look forward to doing more of these. So always keep in touch with what the Tennessee Wildlife Federation is doing by visiting our website and our Facebook pages. And you can also find out what we're doing by visiting the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency Facebook pages. But thank you, everybody, and we wish you a good night.